I just stayed at it. Like I said, I was not a good student. I've always joked that when I show people my class ranking in writing, I turn it upside down so I don't look like I'm at the bottom. I'm at the top.
Yeah.
And somebody had to carry the rest of the classmates, so I did that.
Ah, man.
Welcome to Start Here, Go Everywhere. I am Linda Moyo, an alumna of Jobs for America's Graduates. On this podcast, we bring you incredible guests from all walks of life, offering the skills to educate, inspire, and challenge you to succeed in both school, on the job skills, and in personal life, leading to productive and rewarding careers.
Hi, everybody. I am here with Bob Bunting, the president and the CEO of Bunting Magnetics Company. He is somebody who is a hard worker, and I am excited for you to get to hear a little bit about his life journey so that whoever, maybe you're a person who wants to get into business, get into positions of leadership, this is the guide for you. So, Bob, welcome.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
enjoy doing this.
I'm glad. I have a few questions that I really want to get into. But before we do all that, tell me about your education history, specifically your middle school and high school years. What was that experience like for you?
Well, when I was in grade school, we didn't have middle school. We
Oh,
just had K through 8. I actually went to 5 different grade schools in 2 different states.
uh-huh.
I was born in Michigan, went to a Catholic grade school in Michigan. Then we moved to Illinois, went to a public, couple of public schools there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was lucky enough. I remember back in the 50s, my dad wanted me to go to a military academy for high school. And I think as my parents learned more about it. I wouldn't be surprised if my mother kind of put a stop to it. They decided to send me to an all-boys Catholic high school called St. Viator, and it was 15 miles away in a Chicago suburb, so that was a pretty good drive.
Yeah.
And that I look back at that as probably one of the best things that ever happened to me for school.
Why is that?
Well, they treated you like a man. You were expected to arrive on time. You were expected to do what it took to get a good grade. I played sports. Probably in hindsight, I wasn't tough enough. I could have been better if I was just tougher. You got a report card every 6 weeks. So every 6 weeks, you got a chance to just kind of start over again.
Yeah.
And you were expected to treat people with respect, and you were expected that people would treat you with respect. And I learned a lot from that in the discipline. Plus, I had to drive in rush hour traffic for 3 of my 4 years in school, and played sports. And back in those days where I went to school, as part of the Chicagoland Prep League. Basketball started October 1st and went into April. So I would leave the house about 7:15 every morning during the basketball season, and arrive back home about 6 o'clock at night. And one of the things I couldn't stand that people wear the same gym outfit at practice all week. So I'd walk in the house, and most of the times people were eating. My family was eating already, and I'd go downstairs and put my stuff in the laundry and come back upstairs and eat. And I remember my mother had to go back to Michigan to visit her parents that had a health problem. I had to teach my sisters how to use the wash machine and dryer.
Oh, wow. That's quite the flip. Usually hear about the sisters teaching the brothers.
I'm sure they remember the story differently.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I was not an outstanding student. But what I did learn was stay at it, set a goal, target it, and just stay at it and don't quit. So I've always had a philosophy that don't underestimate the power of momentum. Just staying at it, staying at it, staying at it.
Yeah.
And I got out of high school on time and then had to start all over in college.
And how did you decide to go to college? Did you know that you wanted to
Well,
do that?
I will tell you that was never a decision. You were going to college.
Oh.
They didn't send me to a private college, Catholic college preps high school. 98% of the kids went on to college. So I don't ever remember that not being a question. Plus, there was this thing called Vietnam going on, and you had your choice: go to college or go to boot camp. So,
So college
but
was the best thing for you, right?
so well, it didn't have that much effect on me at the start. It did toward the end, but
Mm,
I just stayed at it. Like I said, I was not a good student. I've always joked that when I show people my class ranking in writing, I turn it upside down so I don't look like I'm at the bottom. I'm at the top,
yeah.
and somebody had to carry the rest of the classmates, so I did that.
Ah, man. So why do you think that you weren't a good student? And what is the definition of a good student?
Well, number one, graduate.
Mm,
Accomplish the goal. Um, I do have a attention deficit. So I still play with my hands on my desk when I'm daydreaming.
mm,
Um, and it was just hard for me to sit at a desk and just do it and do it and do it.
yeah.
Um, and my mind wanders. I mean, I'll have everybody does this, but I'll have three conversations going in my head, and we'll be having a meeting, and somebody will say, "Bob, which conversation am I supposed to be in? The one you're talking
Mm,
about now, or the one we started with?"
yeah. That's
So
interesting.
that made it difficult to stay at. And I'm not a person that I love reading books.
Mm,
I still have a list of all my books from grade school that I keep up. But I do have, if it gets into too much detail,
hmm.
I don't hold that like names. I have to go back and say, who's John Jones? I don't even remember him being in the book.
Yeah.
So everybody has to do it their own way.
And you talked about that you have ADHD. And for most students who I have experienced that have gone through that, have mentioned that often the teachers didn't really care or even realize that they had that. And so they might have had the description of the bad kid or the kid that doesn't listen. Was that your experience
No,
going
I
through?
was never I was never considered a bad kid.
Hmm.
I was always considered polite. Matter of fact, most people thought that I did. Most people would think I did much better in school than I actually did. Now the other thing is I hold myself to maybe too high of a standard sometimes.
Mm.
But I remember being in first grade and I was put in the turtles group. And
Huh.
there's nothing worse. I'm 73 years old and I can remember that.
Yeah.
So you kind of build up a little bit of toughness,
Yeah.
and you want to be number one.
Mm.
And I would work to be number one. In high school, I was in the student council all 4 years, and I
Mm.
worked for that. My freshman year in high school, I was the only Catholic kid from a public school in that building. So I went to that school not even knowing anybody.
Mhm.
And I think, it's a little toughness helps. It's no fun when you're going through it,
Mhm.
but the rewards of learning how to hang in there and don't take it personal. This is just the game you got to play.
Yeah. And
Uh,
I know that after probably college, and I don't know what you majored in, but I know that now you took over a family company, Bunting Magnetics. Is that something you went straight to right after college, or how did you begin that journey?
well, I was the perfect second generation family member. I loved working at Bunting. I'd sweep
Okay.
floors. I'd cut grass.
Yeah.
One summer, I was even the receptionist.
Oh.
Um, Answered the phones. Uh, but the rule was that after I graduated from school, I had to go work someplace else, and I did the same thing with our son Robert.
Oh.
And I went to work for Goodyear Tire and Rubber in the retail store division because I
Uh-huh.
wanted to work for a big company that would do sales training.
Mm.
I have a degree in economics. I wasn't the student that broke the records, but I graduated with my degree. And I remember at the time they were my wife's parents. We weren't married then. And my father-in-law said, why do you want to go in sales? You got a college degree.
Yeah.
I said, because I want to beat all those guys. I want to show them that I can outsell them.
Huh.
It took me a while, and I did it. And I wanted to be a leader of people.
Mm.
I wanted to be the sales manager. I wanted to be the one in charge.
Mm.
I probably became a better salesperson after I became a sales manager at age 30.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, because you have to adjust and work with people and learn how things go. And I was a good salesperson.
Mhm.
I wasn't the best. I made more sales calls,
Mhm.
made more phone calls, made more contacts,
Yeah.
than everybody else in the company.
So you put in the work to
I put in the
ensure.
work.
Yeah.
Not always smart work, don't get me wrong, but I've never, you know, I remember coming home one day and at Goodyear,
Hmm.
it was a 6.5 day job because it was retail.
Yeah.
You worked in a big tire store, and I was a retail store manager, which means I got to dust all the shelves. But I mean, the guy who hired me said, you need to be here 10 minutes before work and 10 minutes after.
Hmm.
And I came home one day because I was still living at my parents' house. I moved from college. I moved back to my parents' house. And I made a comment to my mother. I said, they expect you there 10 minutes before and 10 minutes after. And she gave me the kind of the dirtiest look. She says, oh, excuse me, that's difficult to show up on time.
Hmm.
And that's one of my, matter of fact, if you ever walk in my office and see a clock that's not working because I
Yeah.
probably took the batteries out, they're either set at 10 to 8 or 10 after 5.
Really?
Yeah, that's just, I just believe that. You
Wow.
show up 10 minutes early,
Mhm.
you'll be at work not more than 90% of the other people.
Mhm.
And if you stayed at 10 after 5, you'll be one of the last people there.
Wow. So you
So,
recently you mentioned a few seconds ago about that you wanted to be a good leader.
right.
Why did you crave to be a good leader?
Oh boy. Because that's where the stars of the classroom were at.
Mm.
I don't want to say they were the teacher's pets, but they were the ones in the top 5% of the class, or the top 10% of the class. Those were the ones that were recognized in classrooms. Those were the ones that were recognized at graduation.
Mm.
And so I always looked at those people as well, I may not have been able to perform as good as they did in school. When I got out of school, the world was an oyster. I mean, welcome to it. And so in sales, it's really you and your customer, what you know and what you can convey to them that you can help them with.
Mm.
And in sales, it's a number. How high is your sales? And I remember one year I was the number one salesperson for the whole year. I was never number one, in one individual month, but I was always up there at number 2, number 3, number 4, and at the end of 12 months I was number 1.
Mm. Yeah.
It really ticked me off I didn't get a number 1 during the year, but I got it for the whole year.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like through your consistency and in anything that you've done thus far, that has been the secret sauce to who you've become. So I love that. And now tell me about this role that you have as the CEO and president of an extremely successful business. How do you deal with that?
Oh, well, I kind of had an easier role than some people. My dad started the company.
Mm-hmm.
This was his second company he started. So I always had, I had 3 sisters. So my dad and I spent a lot of time together watching television with me getting up to change the channel. And so it was just kind of a natural thing to take over the company when he got sick. And that's what I wanted.
Mm.
That's what I had prepared myself for. So I've always said, don't underestimate the first generation, the founder, and don't overestimate number 2. We have 2 different roles.
Mm.
I've never started a company from scratch,
Yeah.
but I've been able to grow it 10 times bigger than when I took over.
Mm.
So it's a different. It's different. I never was the one who had to figure out how to get the first order boxed and out the door.
Yeah.
I remember my dad coming home and telling my mom, here's my paycheck from Bunting, his paycheck, but you can't deposit this till next week. So I learned how to hold the company in a responsible position, and the company's not here just to take care of me.
Mm.
Yes, we all are selfish. We all want to make more money.
Yeah.
Or more opportunity to make more money. But we have 250 some employees.
Mm-hmm.
And the company is supporting a lot of people. So I've always tried to look at it. Yeah, I like being number 1. I like walking down the aisle and people know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
But don't wear it on your shoulder that you're the one who counts.
Mm.
The people that count are the people working for you.
Mm.
We had a town hall meeting earlier this week to announce some things. We do this once a month. And I said, what makes Bunting Magnetics good, it's got a good product. It makes a profit, has good customers.
Mm-hmm.
But most of all, we got great employees.
Mm.
And I think if we're successful, it's because I've been able to realize that I'm just one of the people here. I'm not sitting at the top of the pyramid and people are throwing flowers at my feet. It's the other way around.
Mm, yeah, I love that. I know that you like Zig Ziglar, and so I have a quote I want to read to you, and I want to get your reaction on this quote, whether you relate to it or what you think of it. And it goes along with what you just said about being a leader of the company that you took over from your father. And this quote says, "Your attitude, not your aptitude, will determine your altitude. You can have everything in life you want if you will just help other people get what they want. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great." So tell me your reactions on that quote.
Well, number one, we put out a quote of the week here at Bunting Magnetics, and it gets
Mm.
sent to all 250 employees.
Uh-huh.
And I can almost guarantee you that quote's been one of those quotes.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, you can only go as far as the people around you.
Mm.
And so I learned so much from just reading about Zig Ziglar, and I think I saw him in person 5 times before he passed away.
Yeah.
Actually, it's the only time I ever came to work on a Saturday. Well, I always here on a Saturday, but they would tell however they did it, podcast, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
his funeral, and I actually sat here in my office and watched his funeral in Dallas.
Mm.
What I learned from Zig Ziglar is that it takes a team to accomplish something,
Yeah.
and your attitude is what has to be in a positive position. It has to convey to people that we're not just doing this for Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we like Bob,
Mm-hmm.
but I've got a responsibility to my family, and Bob realizes that.
Mm. Yeah.
So that's what I hear from that. Well, I can mimic Zig Ziglar. I actually the old cassette tapes.
Mm-hmm.
I actually wore the cassette out in my car. I had a 1985 Buick Riviera, and I actually listened to so many of his tapes. I actually wore the tape deck out in my car.
What is your favorite Zig Ziglar quote that resonates
See you at the
with
top.
you? See you at the top.
See you at the top.
Can you break that down? Why is that your favorite?
Because that's what I've always strived for.
Mm.
I've always wanted to be the best. I always wanted to in my mind to be the person that made the difference for everybody else.
Mm.
So seeing you at the top means you put your goals together, your attitude together, your honesty together, and you climb. How high is your climb? You know, not everybody wants to be. I mean, I'm never going to run General Electric or General Motors or Tesla because that's not what my aspirations were.
Yeah.
But my aspirations were to run Bunting Magnetics Company.
Mm-hmm.
And then every year I want to get bigger and
Yeah.
bigger and bigger.
So, see you at the top. I can tell that you're a person who thrives in creating goals and crushing those goals. But have there been moments in your life when those goals that you planned didn't happen the way that you planned? And how did you handle that?
Well, yeah, you don't make all your goals.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are unrealistic. I have a specific target goal I want Bunting Magnetics to be, and it looks like we're going to make it next year.
Mm-hmm.
And so this morning I was working on what the goal after that should be.
Mm.
And as the older you get, I think you've got your goals become a little shorter term and maybe a little bit more realistic. I mean, for me to sit here and say, I want to run a $1 billion company.
Mm-hmm.
That probably is not going to happen in my lifetime. So you do sober up a little bit. You're less bombastic.
Mm-hmm.
So my top may not be as high as it was 25 years ago, but I set this goal over 20 years ago, and I'm not there yet. It looks like we're going to get there next year.
Hey, that's exciting. That's exciting. Bob, with all that you've done, whether that's with personal, like family stuff or work stuff, do you ever get scared? I know that at least for me, I always am terrified to start new things or do different things. And Another quote that I want to read from Zig Ziglar is, and this one resonates with me. So whenever I'm in a situation where I'm about to enter into something new, I just always read this quote. It says, "Fear has two meanings. You either forget everything and run, or face everything and run. The choice is yours." So I want you to tell me about a time maybe when you've had fear over something, and how did you overcome that fear?
You know, um, I think you have to face, if it's good fear.
Mm,
I don't mean there's a guy outside the door with a gun. That's a different. Then you run. But I think you have to look at what you want to accomplish. Is it scary? But is it worthwhile accomplishing?
mm,
Um, and then you just have to face up to it and be prepared.
mm,
I think, and everybody does this, including me. You want to do something and you don't prepare yourself well, and it doesn't work.
mhm.
And you say, "Well, I'll never do that again."
Yeah.
So there's the fear of failure,
Mm,
and you got to somehow get over the fear of failure in order to reap the rewards.
mm, yeah.
Um, I said I wasn't tough enough in high school basketball.
Mhm.
I still played.
Yeah.
So even in business, you gotta measure it. And the older you get, um, you're maybe less entrepreneurial.
Mhm.
But if it's a good goal, you just have to kind of face it.
Mm,
Um, over my life, I have made trips to China and Australia and all over Europe and Brazil. And many times I get on that airplane and I couldn't even sleep the night before because I'm so nervous about screwing something up the Bunting magnetics or making a
mm,
fool of myself.
yeah.
But you still got to put one foot in front of the other,
Mm,
and count a little bit of sea at the top. It's one foot at a time.
yeah. I know that Zig Ziglar has been so influential in your life, and somebody that has played a similar role for me is somebody named Lisa Nichols. And she says that sometimes you have to hold fear in one hand and hold passion in the other and live
Yep.
anyway. And that sounds like that's exactly what you have been able to do. And doing that consistently has been the thing that has put you where you are in life right now. So, in life, in this age of people who are young like me, we want to be business people. We want to start our own businesses. We want to run our own businesses. We want to be the CEO of whatever it is that we're passionate about. What words of wisdom do you have? And yeah, or tips for those individuals?
Well, if I knew I wanted Bunting magnetics in my future,
Hmm.
so I knew where I was going. When my dad started Bunting magnetics, he had 4 kids and a wife.
Hmm.
He knew where he had to go.
Mm,
He had to get an order. He
yeah.
had to get paid.
Hmm.
And I think when you're starting out of school, or whether it's just out of high school, or whether it's out of college, I think you've got to surround yourself with. They don't have to be positive people, but they have to be your type of person.
Mm,
I've always said what you like in a friend is not necessarily a person that you should hire,
mm,
but you want to associate with people that are doing where you want to go. You have to go to their organizations. You have to show up where they're at.
mm,
You have to find a club or an organization, like I said, where you can go learn things.
mhm.
You know, uh, Zig Ziglar was a mentor of mine. He didn't know that,
Yeah.
but through Zig Ziglar, I've read about Tony Robbins
Yes.
and other motivational speakers. And
Mm,
motivation in itself is phony
mm,
if you don't do something with it. I remember one time I sat down and I wrote down 100 goals, outlandish goals. I bet I've accomplished 85% of them. So, how much money do you want to make? That's a legitimate goal. Once you get out of school and you got to support yourself,
mhm.
what type of organization do you want to be at?
Yeah.
And, I think, it's like doing this podcast. I don't know how many of these you've done, but I'm sure the first one you did was you were a little nervous about it.
For sure. Yeah.
But, you moved forward, and then who do you need to talk to? Who's the mentor that's done more? Who do I watch? Who do I watch on different podcasts to learn how they do it?
Hmm.
So, a person who wants to be a doctor surrounds himself by what? Other doctors.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a salesperson. I surrounded myself with other salespeople.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So I think you've got to just decide where you want to go, and then you may get there and find out, this isn't what I want to do. Well, back up and start again.
Yeah. And have you felt like a failure in situations where you've said, I think this is what I want to do, but then maybe after you did it, it didn't work out the way you thought, and then you had to look back and say, okay, where do I pivot to now?
Well, we have a building just south of this building on the other side of the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And we started it from scratch. And after 5 years, I closed it down. Because I realized, while it was a great dream, it ain't going to work. And if I had listened to the people I had talked to, I wouldn't have done it. Now, the flip side is, it's making us nothing but money over there. It's now the Bunting Customer Experience Center. Yeah. And we've set up a showroom where customers come in and actually test their product. So I think Zig Ziglar said, make lemonade out of lemons. Mm-hmm. And, so, your fear is starting, mm-hmm. but, sometimes you got to back up and go a different direction.
Yeah. Yeah. So Bob,
I've always said I can walk up to any building anywhere in this world to make a sales call.
Really?
But God, don't take me to a party where I don't know anybody.
Interesting. I feel like you have had a lot of experience, and you shared with us already that you are 73 years old and you've crushed dreams that you've written down and done all these things that maybe some of them you did plan and some, hey, it just came to you. What would you, if you could write a book about your life?
Oh my gosh! I get teased here at Bunting all the time. I've got a young R&D engineer who reports to me, Joseph Jackson.
Uh-huh.
And when you get around younger people, sometimes you let your guard down and you'll just kind of talk more. and I'll make comments. I don't want to be first, but I certainly don't want to be last. Or I don't want to be last. I'd rather be first, or something like that. And he says, "Well, you got to start writing all these down."
Yeah.
I don't know if my story would catch anybody's attention, but I think there's more people out there like me who weren't a great student but got it done. And I had a great opportunity. My dad created the foundation, so I don't know if I would have been as far along or as good if I worked for somebody else.
Yeah.
But a book of my life, I could break it down in about 4 different chapters: Michigan, Illinois, Kansas. Single, married, children, grandchildren.
Oh, look at that. I want to acknowledge the person who you are, Bob. You went through high school, or I guess that educational route when you were younger. And like you said, you weren't the best student. You saw the things, the opportunities that the best students had, and you're like, well, I think I want that. And you never backed down from a challenge. You were persistent and you kept it going, and you graduated high school, you graduated college, and you tried different things. And then you had this role with your family company. Even though you didn't begin it, you found a way to excel and keep it going for so long. And that's incredible. And along with that, I want to now know, Bob, what is your definition of success? I know everybody has different ones, but what's your definition of success?
Well, when you get down toward the end of the story, you certainly want your children and grandchildren to be well-rounded, good citizens. So when you get all, when it gets all said and done, as long as I can pay my bills and live an okay life, and my wife is happy, the legacy is the trophy to your life. This is your kids and your grandkids. So, and you've met the 6 kids, and you've met Molly and Cody, and I presume you met Robert at one time or another. They're good. They do their job. They go to work. And, and I would like to leave Bunting Magnetics in good, solid shape so that all the people who work here, the 23-year-old college student we just hired from engineering school, so that whether he stays here 1 year or 101 years, that he can look back and say, this was worth it.
Mm,
So,
yeah. So when you look back at your life now, everything you've done, the good, the bad, the triumphs, the mistakes, what do you think?
I think I did okay. Did okay. Could have done more. Could have
Yeah.
done less. But it worked out all right.
Well, Bob, thank you for this conversation.
All right. Thank you, Linda.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest things, you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at JAG Students. Thanks again, and see you next time.